Greetings, fellow Earthlings. It is I, Christina, here at Fit and Bendy, and today we're going to talk about my favorite tool to address shoulder instability, Isometrics. How do you know if you have shoulder instability? Whenever you're trying to do exercises that use your shoulders for heavy weight or deep flexibility, if you feel wobbly or you have a hard time controlling your shoulders or there's pain in your shoulders, you might have shoulder instability. Doing some isometrics before you do your weight bearing or stretching exercises can really help prepare your shoulders so they know what to do for you. I have hypermobile shoulders and I have torn both of my rotator cuffs. I have had tendonitis in my shoulders. I've dislocated them. And these isometric exercises are part of what's enabled me to keep my shoulders functional and to heal them without having to have surgery. Let's get into the exercises. I like to call this exercise the volume knob. And all you need is a low table or some kind of bench or chair. It's using a specific kind of isometric called an overcoming isometric. An isometric is a muscle contraction without movement. An overcoming isometric means that you are pushing or pressing into an immovable object. So you have 100% control over how much effort you are using. That object is not going to move no matter how little or how hard you press. So we're going to play with the volume knob of the amount of effort you're putting into your isometric push in order to make sure that your muscle has control and dynamics, whether you're pushing just a tiny, tiny little bit or as hard as you can, or anything in between. Low volume means a nice, gentle push. High volume is a harder push. Start on hands and knees with one hand resting on a table in front of you. Imagine that your palm is glued to that table and the rest of your arm, elbow, and shoulder is just dripping down towards the floor. The body is held strong on that other arm. Right now, we have the volume knob set almost to 0. That means you're barely pressing down at all with that hand. Feel what light effort feels like. With absolutely no movement in the shoulder or the rest of the body, you're consciously creating a very light contraction, which can be more challenging than pushing super hard. Now, what happens if you turn up the volume? 10%, 15%, 25%. You can turn up the volume even higher, but notice, the higher the volume, the harder it is to keep your alignment and to use exactly the same muscles that you were using with that lighter effort. Other muscles will start to kick in. At some point, you'll probably notice that that elbow starts to lift up to the side, the shoulder starts to hunch, maybe the neck tenses up, maybe your back starts to arch. All sorts of things can happen, making it go all wonky. The purpose of this exercise is to give you a greater understanding and control of how your shoulder reacts under pressure. Does it feel like your shoulder might pop out of the socket or like it's hard to find your alignment? Does it feel super difficult to keep your shoulder in one place as you increase that pressure? Turn the volume back down until you get that sense of control. It's also possible to do this same exercise at your very end range of your shoulder. To do that, we're going to use a wall. You can face the wall, move your arm up over your head, pressing the palm into the wall. And again, start with that very, very low volume of pressure. And as you turn up the volume, notice what happens to your shoulder alignment. You can also perform this with your arms stretched out to the side for a pec stretch, going to that end range of motion with the pec in an elongated position. When you're first learning these isometrics, I recommend starting with shorter holds, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, just to try to get the hang of them. And then as you get used to them and you get more confident, you can go up to a full minute hold on each of these isometrics, turning that volume knob up and down and seeing what it feels like. And that's going to really give you a lot of control and awareness of that shoulder joint. Important PSA, higher volume of effort does not equal a better, more useful exercise. The point of this exercise isn't to put the pedal to the metal and go to 100 miles an hour. It is to feel your dynamics. It is to be able to control your amount of effort and build your awareness of your shoulders. So a car that can only go 0 or 100 miles an hour isn't useful. It's got to be able to do everything in between with just as much control. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe because I have a sequel coming out next week with more shoulder stability tips. Thank you so much for watching and happy bendings.